From St. Cloud, Florida, this is the Phoenix Rising Radio Network.
We have a 9-year-old girl in the studio. No, she's not being held hostage.
She wanted to come here. Who are you?
Brooklyn. Everything's better with me in it.
Welcome to the Doc Show, Coast to Coast, with Doc Holliday.
Every newsman in the city's laughing at us.
Well, she's weird, and you're awkward.
We're a great match, right?
Perfect couple.
And I don't like it.
Weeknights, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
I have been telling you since you were 4 years old. It's okay to be smarter than everybody, but you can't go around pointing it out.
Smarter than you.
Yeah, right. 50-year-old.
I'm not 50.
Give Doc a call, 407-498-3193.
You know, if we did a shot every time they said something embarrassing, this would be one hell of a drinking game.
So I look old to you?
Middle-aged.
What is middle-aged to you?
About 60, 70.
Jeez.
I'll get the vodka.
What do you get when you cross a highly outspoken individual with the power of radio? Well, you still get the highly outspoken Doc.
The facts are that Barack Obama is not a Christian.
Do you have proof? I'm asking you because when I'm investigating something, I use proof.
Well, there's a lesson for you.
Welcome to the Doc Show, Coast to Coast, with Doc Holliday.
And for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure that most of you do, at a terror attack, yes, Islamic terror, reared its ugly head again on the campus of Ohio State. I believe 9 people were injured or shot. And naturally, the terrorist, who was, by the way, a refugee, let into the country, was killed before he could explain himself. I wish I could, you could leave him alive, just so I could get a reason. But, there was a note of some sort, and yet we know the reason. So they're back, but boy, let me tell you something. Obama's still president, okay? Now, Obama, he's going to let the Muslims get away with everything and anything that they want. Because those are his people. You wait till Trump gets into office. You people aren't even going to get... You probably have to have a trial, although I personally disagree with that, because you're not true Americans, so therefore the Constitution does not apply to you. You're a terrorist.
It's referred to as maritime law.
And you should be given your opportunity to speak. You won't deny it. And then run out back and shot. I'm all for that. No, Donald didn't tell me that's what he was going to do. But what do you think the chances are of terrorists paying the price after we find out what the hell's going on, than how Barack Obama just lets them run free? This, of course, was a refugee. And what is a refugee? An Obama operative. The quicker that asshole gets out of government, the better off we're all going to be. But he's not going to go quiet. The left is not going to go quiet. The Muslims aren't going to go quiet. And Obama's not going to go quiet. There's going to be more cops killed. There's going to be all kind of shit going on. I mean, it's going to be ugly. So I wasn't surprised when I flipped over to the news and saw what had happened. I just wasn't surprised by that. I was angered by that. I was pissed, like you would not believe, by that. But, well, they killed the guy. And a lot of you say, well, that's what you want, isn't it, Doc? Don't you want them all popped in the back of the head? Yes. But they have valuable information on the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And imagine here in Orlando, if we had had that valuable information. Now, what was the last terrorist shooting that happened? before the Pulse nightclub? Well, you've got that Christmas party over in California. Don't tell me they didn't know it was coming. They did know it was coming. And if we could just keep these people alive, torture, waterboard, whatever it takes to get them to save an American life. If we could have stopped Pulse, because people don't realize what an effect the Pulse nightclub thing has had here in Orlando. And of course, I'm not speaking for anybody from New York. I understand 9/11. Okay, I was on the air. I get it, folks. I had 12 hours of my head spinning. And I just think knowing that Pulse could happen. But see, the problem here in America, in Obama's America, is we've got to see it. Or we don't believe it's going to happen. And, quite honestly, there were people that knew 9/11 was coming down. And even Bill Clinton knew that Obama was a problem. Not Obama. Well, I think Obama's the problem, but it's Osama bin Laden. Amazing how similar those names are. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. And if we could have prevented the Pulse attack, we could prevent today's attack. Today, Ohio State. If we just had information, there's a chance we could have got a name. And this time, the FBI do something. But this is Obama's America, where terrorists run free. It ain't happening in Trump's America. Trump's America is going to kick Islamic ass. And I'm going to be there helping him. They want to recount on the vote, which I thought was great news. I love it. Because ever since the election, I've kind of been in a down. Everything was so intense. It was a year and a half, 18 months of fighting with listeners or fighting with writers or this, that, and the other thing, dealing with liberals. And it was so intense. And I gave Donald Trump everything I had. Everything. Because let me tell you something. This microphone is one powerful son of a bitch. And all of us here in Florida that rooted for Trump and told you, don't put Hillary in, the reason Trump won Florida. Now they want to recount. That got my blood boiling a little bit again. I was kind of like, yeah, I want to recount too, knowing that it's not going to happen. Trump even got more electorals today. Trump said voter fraud was the reason that Hillary beat him in the popular vote. I agree. I think there's something to that, but it doesn't matter because that's not the system until Americans vote to change the system. Because I wouldn't disagree with you about the Electoral College. I wouldn't. But when you have the Democratic Party, notorious for fraud, notorious for corruption, the left, until we come up with a better replacement for the Democrats, I say you keep the Electoral College. Because you don't know how many of those 2 million were fraud. And there were people that said, yeah, but I mean, what does it matter now? Even if we get the fraudulent votes out, Trump still wins because he won the right states. But I'd like to see a system where the popular vote determines who's president.
But what happens? Okay, so let's say we did have that system, and this election around, Hillary would have won. Then what would you have done?
Well, if it was the popular vote, I would have to say, all right, how does Trump handle this? What does he do about this? Because it was the popular vote. But voter fraud was detected all over the country. And it was...
I guess my question to you is, without the smoke and mirrors and without the what ifs, okay, had we had the popular vote, Hillary Clinton would have won. Would you still be on this, I want the popular vote?
Yeah, because I think if we had the popular vote, we would know nothing about the electoral vote. So what other vote would there be? The one that gets the most wins. That's who gets elected to the All-Star games in baseball or the Pro Bowl in
so
football,
you would accept
which is
that
going to
and
be...
so you would accept it as an American citizen.
As an American citizen...
Hillary won the popular vote, so therefore she won.
I would say, yes, Hillary won the popular vote.
Okay.
But if Trump wants to challenge it, I'll get behind that.
See, you're not answering my question.
I am answering your question.
What if there was no challenge?
No.
There was no
There's
electoral...
always a challenge.
See.
There's always a challenge. If somebody doesn't like something in this country, you can challenge it.
So is that it? So if Trump had gotten the popular vote, would all these liberals be saying, oh, yes, we have to have the popular vote? That's my point. My point is the people that now want the popular vote are the people that didn't get whose candidate didn't get elected. You don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to flip-flop on this. That's my point. You don't get to say 4 years from now, if Trump gets the popular vote, and let's say it went to a popular vote, but your candidate would have gotten an electoral college vote and would have won. You don't get to flip-flop back and say, hey, I want the electoral college. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you have to understand there would be no electoral college. It would not exist. This would simply be a country. Now, the electoral college was put in to prevent fraud. It was. Fraud by Democrats, by the way.
It was supposed to be equal representation of states that were to prevent fraud, yes, but again, you were looking at states with less population, which still exists, versus states with huge amounts of population where it could potentially sway the vote. And is that fair? Because think about it. What's important to people in California, which is completely overpopulated, and what may be important to people in New York, which is completely overpopulated, versus what might be important to people in North Dakota.
Well, that's where you just have to deal with it.
Okay. Is it fair for the people in North Dakota to be represented by what the people in California and New York want? They have different needs. They have different demographics. They have different economics, different ways of living. I mean, so that's where the electoral college comes in to get equal representation for these states that are not so tremendously. In other words, they don't want California's vote washing out that of North Dakota. That's the gist
California's vote does wash out North Dakota, and they get 52 electoral votes.
Yes, they.
What does Nevada have? 4.
Okay.
So it's washed. If you even look at the way they distribute the votes, with Florida being so crucial and Pennsylvania being so crucial, North Carolina being so crucial, and Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. These are the states you have to win to become president of the United States of America. So if you think about it, you just sit here and scratch your head. Well, what do we do? You can go back to the popular vote. Just got to make sure it's clean. Nobody wants to do that. You see this recall they're calling for, which I'm excited about, because this would just mean that the Democrats are self-imploding. And one thing we need to do in this country is eliminate the Democratic Party. because they have turned into corruption, hate, killing, war. And you want to know something? The Republicans are the ones being called racist. The Democrats were the slaveholders. The Republican Party was formed to put down the Democratic Party, to put it down, and to fight it. And in 1960, a young man by the name of John Kennedy had every good intention of giving the equal rights. You know, all men are created equal. All women are created equal. And he felt that blacks were being bullied in the South. And he was right. So he began to draw the document of everybody's created equal. If that black man wants to go to the University of Alabama, George Wallace, Democrat, step aside. And Kennedy was killed by his own party partially for that reason. Because Kennedy wasn't a racist Democrat. He was a whole new breed and was going to bring in a whole new breed of people to the Democratic Party. It was going to change. Martin Luther King was a liberal. I'm sorry.
Republican.
He was a Republican. Martin Luther King was a Republican. Most black folks were Republicans because the Republicans were the ones that pulled them out of slavery. Only the ones that believed the hype. And after Kennedy died, Lyndon Johnson said, quote unquote, after I get Martin Luther King to sign this and I sign it, I'll have them voting for the next 50 years for Democrats. They knew they were pulling a sham on them. So the black folks ran to Democrats. Woo! When in reality, they've kept you down worse than any white man on a plantation. That's what the Democrats have done. That's why they've got to go away. That's why they have to implode and destruct. And something better has to come along. Something better has to come along. Because the Democrats have turned into a party of pedophilia, adultery. Look at Obama. Supporting terrorism. Paying terrorists $150 billion. That's what Democrats do now. Democrats are mourning the loss of Fidel Castro. Not the ones from Cuba who became Democrats because they were told to. But every other one is like, oh my God, Fidel, Jesus. No, Fidel Castro was one of the worst human beings ever put on the face of the earth. Ever. Couldn't do any worse. Hitler. Fidel Castro was Hitler with a beard and a big cigar. And the only thing that Barack Obama did was to loosen up the travel restrictions and the ability for some businesses in the United States, not all, to do business in Cuba, but did not offer the Cuban people any rights. No rights. They couldn't come here. Cubans still can't come here. They still have to swim. They got to get on a 52 Chevy. They cannot travel back. Their relatives can go down and see them, but they cannot travel back. They still have to live under the oppressive communist regime. And that was one thing that Obama made sure of. But he was the hero. I mean, look at what he claimed to do, but didn't, in order to swipe votes for Hillary Clinton, who was predestined to go ahead on a deal to represent the Democrats. He freed Cuba. No, he didn't. No, Cuba's not free. The Castros, or the Castro, can still torment and kill people. They live under communism. They cannot worship God or Jesus. Nothing has changed for the people of Cuba. But you're being told that Obama, the great Democrat, has freed Cuba. Well, that would get all the Cubans voting for Hillary, right? Well, fortunately for people such as myself and everybody else with a microphone, we told the Cubans.
It's going to be interesting tomorrow because we mentioned earlier we're having Jose Alvarez in, who is the newly elected mayor of Kissimmee. And he's taking time out of his schedule to come back in and talk about what he's going to do for Kissimmee during his term. And he was the official, the candidate that told us his family fled from Cuba. And he was the one who was 7 years old and had to take the citizenship exam and had to learn English and had the school lunch lady help him with English so that he could pass the exam. So it'll be interesting to see what his take on it as somebody who did deflect from Cuba and whose family has made their mark here in the States.
Bottom line is that then, now that the Democrats have been convinced 150% that Obama freed Cuba, but didn't, and fortunately they listened. Because I'm like, let me ask you a question. I stayed on this for a month straight every single day. Let me ask you, can you bring a relative back from the island without going through all the same crap you had to go through before? Can a Cuban baseball player say, I want to go play in the United States? No. Absolutely, positively, 100% not. Because Obama will pull a sham. Same sham. The death of Osama bin Laden. The biggest wipeout scam I have ever witnessed, that I sat there every night. We did not kill Osama bin Laden. Barack walked up. You saw him walking down that hall. Everything was all set up as if they knew it was going to happen. And today I killed Osama bin Laden, who was responsible for 9/11. He didn't kill anybody. As a matter of fact, nobody killed Osama bin Laden. He died. In 2004, it was revealed that they knew where to find him because he was on kidney dialysis and needed to be in a hospital. I remember joking, he's probably got one of those machines in a cave. No. But the United States couldn't attack a hospital under George W. Bush against the Geneva Convention, while Obama has attacked 3 hospitals that carried American people in the Middle East. Doctors Without Borders blew the living hell out of the place. Well, we heard there was a wanted terrorist in there. He's a liar. So you believed that Barack Obama could perform what this country and the intelligence of this country and a whole nother administration couldn't do. They couldn't find him. No. He was in the hospital. He was on kidney dialysis, which makes a beep. They knew where he was. But they can't go storming in a hospital and kill people. That's what Obama did to Doctors Without Borders in Syria. Bush would not authorize it. And eventually, Osama bin Laden died. All the Muslims knew he was dead. Can you imagine? Let's jack it up now, 2013. when Obama played that big, had Hillary in there, that big, oh, watch this, we're going to get him, SEAL Team 6. And we shot him in the eye twice. And then they dumped his body in the water, where there is no Muslim tradition of shooting or I'm sorry, dumping a dead body of a leader in the water out of respect. Never happened, never since. You know why they dumped him? So they couldn't autopsy him. So they couldn't DNA him. It was a lie to get you to lean toward Hillary because she was going to keep up the same pace that Barack kept. Because Barack is a savior. He's no better than Fidel. Barack is a liar who's going to attend Fidel Castro's funeral but refused to attend the funeral of 150 dead French people when every leader in the world was going, and march against terror. Couldn't do it. Money's a little tight. Because he financed ISIS, which was involved in that shooting. You're going to find out a lot about Obama. I'll sit here and I'll yell about it till the cows come home. Do the recount. I can't wait. It'll destroy the Democratic Party, and it needs to be imploded. And something better's got to come along. 407-498-3193. Going to take a break? I'm serious, man. I thought about all this over the weekend. It's probably why I bit my tongue. I'm just like, and there were so many other lies that Obama told, just to make it look like the Democratic Party was the party of the people. Look how stupid George Bush was. Look how stupid the Republicans are. Look what a racist Donald Trump is. We didn't believe it. Finally, we stood up and said enough. Enough is enough. But bring on that recount. I can't wait to see it. It's fantastic. Come on, Hillary. See if you can count to 10. It's 29 minutes after the hour.